Everybody about set? Our next presenter is our good friend from California, Rod Heckelman. He is the general manager and still director of tennis at the Mount Tam Racket Club in Larkspur. He is an elite professional. He's one of the unique tennis pros that has transitioned from being a tennis pro, which he still does on a daily basis, to being a club manager. He is not only a club manager, but he's also a club owner. He has written several publications for tennis industry on club management. He wrote the Club Managers and Operators Handbook, manual, I should say. He wrote a book called Down the Alley as well. Please help me welcome Rod Heckelman.
About 4 months ago, had a great meeting that we had organized, which consisted of managers and owners throughout most of Northern California. And it stimulated my lecture today to switch completely over from what I was going to do, which as you may know, I do a specialty course that lasts about 4 hours on managing. And I thought, I want to get to the specifics of something that's most important for the teaching pros, but most important to the owners and managers. So I asked them at these meetings, I said, what is it you look for? Now, let me go back a second. Orrin, and I can never pronounce his last name, came to me about 4 days ago. He says, this guy is the #1 player in the world, I think, at 45. He says, I can't get these jobs. Wherever I go, I get turned down. My resume, what's wrong with it? He goes, of course, I looked at his resume. He talks about being a world champion. He talks about all these great players he's worked with. He talks about how phenomenally teacher he is, and how hard he works at being on the court all day long. But I told him, I said, Orrin, you're not talking about anything you're doing for the club. You're not talking about how when you go to the club, you're going to make them money. So going back to where I started with this, when I go to these owners and managers, I ask them what they look for in a pro. The #1 thing they look for in a pro. Is it their playing ability? Is it their teaching skills? Is it their looks, their personality? It's basically what they're going to bring to the club financially. That's a fact. Now in the South, it's a little bit different down here. There's a lot of country clubs, there's a lot of different things. But basically, in a lot of parts of this country, this is what's going to make a pro very, very, very successful and very popular. I'm going to ask this question to you. Who would you put down as the most successful pro, tennis pro, in this country, historically? Who would you have? What name would come up first in your mind?
Bollettieri.
Right. What is Bollettieri's greatest strength?
Motivation.
Sales. And I go back to 1963 when I first met him in Ohio, teaching a girls team. And he walked up to me, and I played a little tennis with him. Yeah, we all know he wasn't a great tennis player. Promotional skills were unbelievable. Years later, I see him again. This is help me with this one, I think 79. He's already got the thing I basically just started. And there's a girl named Stacy Margolin, I believe, I might get this name wrong, and she's playing up there. And she's a top up-and-coming player. And Nick's approach to this whole concept of the academy was get the top players to come. We started that with Arias and Christie, to get the top players to come. So the parents of Stacy are there. She's working currently, I believe, out of Grosse Pointe, Michigan, with a top pro. She's doing very well. He wants her to come down. So he looks at me, he goes, I got to get that girl. What's her name? I go through the information. He goes, watch this. He walks up to the parents, arms around both sides, and he goes, you know what you have here? You have God's gift. You have God's gift. Out there is God's gift playing. That's your child. And I just want you to know, I think that she is the future of tennis. And he says, I just want you to know, I appreciate being able to watch her. And walked away. Of course, a month later, she's at Nick Bollettieri's range. He could sell you anything. Yes, he had motivation. Yes, he had skills of that nature. But what he had was the ability to create that interest and capture you from step one. And I go back to the time I first met him, which was in 1963 in Ohio. He's teaching a girls' team. And I looked at it and I go, this guy, he's not that tough. I had the pleasure of working with some of the best teachers in the world that time, Fred Earl, Ken Waltz in California. And I looked at this guy, I go, What's he gonna do? But then later on, little by little, he made it big. And again, it was sales. It was ability to move things. And that's what I'm gonna try to pass on to you. The first thing you need to understand about capitalizing on your teaching skills is to realize that you are all already salespeople if you teach tennis. You just don't know it maybe. But when you go out on the court, you're selling your ideas, you're selling your methods, you're selling your approach, and you're hopefully going to get their interest in the game and they're going to sustain it. That method of which you use is a method that you probably don't even realize. It is referred to as a primer in sales. Essentially, you're getting their interest by giving them something they capture right away. They fall in love with the game, they feel it. Let me give you an example. Some people I may have showed this before, so I apologize. Everybody have a pen in their hand? Everybody got a pen? Put the pen like this. Got it? See how these edges? Now what I'm going to do without separating my hands is simply move the pen underneath like that. Go ahead and try it. You're not going to try, are you?
No, I can tell you right now, you're smarter than I am.
Do it again.
Do it again. Oh, it's easy. Come on. Look, watch me do it. Come on. Easy. One simple move. Never separate my hands. What the heck? What? Come on. Do it slower. Okay. How about if I do it like this?
Yeah.
How's that work? Pretty slow? You got it? Have you got it? So that's a little demonstration about capturing people through instruction. That's what happens. I get your attention because I'm teaching something. Did you learn it? Probably not. But the point is I've now engaged you because I'm teaching, I'm coaching you. So it's not so much about how good you are as a coach or how much you can transfer information. It's about how you capture the person's interest at that point in time. That's your sales thing. That's what you do so well as a teacher. Just so you know, I've been doing this for like 15, 20 years. I drive magicians nuts when I do this trick. And I can't tell you how many times when I do conventions, people come up a year later and go, I want to know something. I think they're going to talk to me about the business. They go, I want to know how you did that pin dance. That's all they want to know. It's funny. So resumes. I'm going to go right to that quickly because I brought that up at Lauren. I now probably have helped, I would say, close to 200 pros in resumes. And I go back to the resumes and I ask them to put that resume down and start with step one. Ask yourself what you've done for a club that made the club more successful. That's the first thing you want to do. What did you do for that club that made it more successful? The second thing is, get set stats in there. I brought in 100 new members. I kept 40 members. Membership retention is really important. It's extremely important so much that my program that I did at my club, I have pros that have been there now. I've been there 38 years. I have pros that have been there 35, 33, 29, 22 years. The youngest one is now 11 years, been there, and the other one's 9 years. They're not going anywhere because of the program I did for membership retention. Very simple. When they bring a new member in, because of their skills as a teacher, as a coach, as a salesperson, they get a small commission. Nice, huh? You know what's really nice? They get a piece of that person's dues for as long as that member is at my club. So the guy that's been there for 33 years gets a check of about $3,400 every month automatically. Boom, boom, boom. And he makes sure those people stay there. So the system I created, which by the way, I've tried to pass on to many clubs, I get a little resistance there, but a lot of them are starting to realize maybe this is the way we go. Many clubs are very phobic about the pros taking their students away and taking them elsewhere. This solves that problem right off the bat. But it's a nice system for the pros, it secures them, and it makes them realize that they're part of the bigger picture, which is a big factor. So in the resume, I ask that you try to put in stuff that you're going to say, okay, this is what I'm doing for the club, this is the money I've made, these are the technical members I've retained, and these are some of the things I see in the future of the club that I can be a part of to make this club better. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask a lot of questions today. How many of you have clubs with a waiting list for members. What club is this?
It's in Macon, Georgia, Iowa. They make sure that they keep people on the waiting list.
Okay. But I mean, but it's as you can see, it's a rare thing. Do you know that in I'm going to go back a long ways here, in 1955, this goes back when there was very few tennis clubs, the waiting list for clubs was a very common thing. Almost every tennis club, even though tennis was not popular, had a waiting list. Frankly, there wasn't that many tennis clubs again, but waiting list was very common. Today, it's not. The demand is different. So it's a very important part of this whole picture for understanding where clubs are going. When you have someone coming to you to take lessons, how many of you are able to teach outsiders, non-members? So it's a pretty good number. How often when you take those, this is a bad question to ask, this is not fair. Let's rephrase it. How often do you see those people as potential members as well as, you don't have to answer, but I like the idea, and it's an unfair question, but in your mind, do you see those, say, these are potential members? Will you benefit financially from them, from being a potential member, both financially as far as lessons, or is there any kickback from the club? I'm just asking the question out loud, there's no need for an answer. So these are the kind of considerations you need to take into account as you start to become a salesperson in the industry. You want to try to set something up like that. So as you go to reach these people, you bring them in from the lessons, eventually you can see them as becoming members, eventually they're going to become part of the club, eventually they're going to end up being long-term lesson takers, we would like to think. As the gentleman before me, Paul, said, many of these people should be taking lessons more and more as they get better and better. And that's something that's very interesting because we think of most beginners as the people being the bulk of lessons. Getting to the understanding again of numbers here. In the industry, in California, I can only go to California here for this, we did not do it beyond it. But an organization out there called CCD, California Clubs of Distinction, did a survey to find out where money comes from as far as level of players come. They discovered that 93% of the money that's brought into clubs, tennis players, and when I say money bringing in, that means cafe or restaurant, pro shop, lessons, dues, comes from players 4.0 and lower, or junior recreational tennis players. 7% go above. I bring this up because a lot of people are really, infatuated with the idea of having top players at their club and what have you. This has really been motivated also highly by the USTA leagues lately, so that has a big issue there as well. So we know that these people who are coming in that are beginners with you are great people to sell to, great people to start going in your program. What makes it also very, very easy for you to be in sales is the understanding that you create the experience. I got involved many years ago with a company that we sell cars, luxury cars. And I studied their sales techniques to find out what I could do more for my people at the club. What I discovered was they do this constantly. Someone comes in, they're looking at a Mercedes, a BMW. Right off the bat, what do? Here are the keys, it's yours. They give it to them, right on the spot. Here are the keys, drive it home, see if you like it. A few papers are signed up, and I'll tell you, that really works well. They don't go up and tell them about what the car can do. They don't provide information. They provide experience. Now, ask yourself, in your club environment, who's the best person in the club to provide an experience? The tennis pro. It's absolutely obvious to me. It's the tennis pro. And you have to see that possibility. So when someone comes in, you say, and this is the new mentality, by the way, with a lot of clubs and much more aggressive about it. When someone walks in to inquire about a membership, they're a member. Not they're going to get information. They become a member right there. So what the tennis pros do and what our pros do is they come, let's go out and hit some balls. Let's see how you play. Let me line you up with someone. Tuesday, I got so-and-so to play with. Let's play, join us for doubles. They create the experience right off the bat, making the person feel like they're a member. I can't ask that of a salesperson. I can't ask that of someone working in the fitness area, but I can certainly ask that of the tennis pro. And for that reason, they are my best salespeople. Now, I want to move on a little bit and talk about understanding the art of selling. because to me it's the most interesting part. I think that there was something I learned. I did two things that I learned that were very interesting. I went to a place in Puerto Vallarta, and I experienced, and it was an experience, timeshare salespeople. Has anybody ever done that, by the way? That's an amazing thing. These guys are phenomenal. So you go down there, and they say, just one day, and we'll give you the week at this hotel for nothing. You pay for your airfare. You get everything included. And boom, all you got to do is for one day, half a day even, sit down and hear our spiel about this. I should not have brought my wife along. That was a big mistake. She died 100 deaths going through this thing. But literally, everything they did was about selling you that timeshare. And it was so well done, it was ridiculous. But I learned so much about primers selling, false values is what it's called. And it was very interesting because the guy says, we'll pick you up tomorrow morning at 8:30 in the morning, and we'll drive you to the location. This is going to happen. So the taxi guy picks us up. You get in the car. The taxi guy says to us, boy, this is really, we've got beautiful weather. Where are you from? We're from San Francisco. It's cold up there, isn't it? It's really cold down here. It's always warm, You guys been here for a day? Yeah, you look great. I mean, the taxi guy's telling us. He drives around for 15 minutes, giving us a spiel. We end up going to the hotel that is essentially 50 yards away from where we were staying. We could have walked there faster than this taxi guy got there. But that was the thing. He's the first guy set up. Now we go to breakfast. They have breakfast for us. We go through the whole thing, sit down, and someone comes up, oh, you're a beautiful couple. Take a picture. Take a picture like that. That picture ended up being in a frame next to the bed to the condo they wanted to sell us. That's how good these people are. They really knew how to set you up. But my mind started clicking. And I've been working on this a lot for my club. How do I do this in tennis? I mean, I did not fall for it, but I tell you, they've got you so many times. I mean, I won't go through the whole story of what they do. They just hit you one person after another, and hopefully you can survive it. It's a hard one, but it's amazing. But it's a relentless effort on their part. But I did learn a lot from it. As I said, I went back and I thought, how can I do this at the club? Well, first of all, maybe I should have some sort of experience like that more at my club. Not necessarily have their picture on the Hall of Fame tennis players as they walk through the front door, but have some sort of experience that I can do so I can give them that kind of feel of what it's like in the club. So I've come up with all these different things, including the app that I've been working on a great deal. And the app has ways of instant notifications, push notifications we call them. It has the membership card on it. It also has ways to meet other people. It has all that stuff. It also has ways of getting into certain parts of the club. Let me know if people want to buy something. I know everything everybody's doing at the club because of that app, which, by the way, is sort of where we're going in the world of sales. They know everything you do. Someday you're going to be walking along. Your cell phone's going to ring. They know because you like coffee. That cell phone's going to say, hey, by the way, there's a Starbucks around the corner. And that's where we're going. Advertising is, in general, this massive advertising is going the way of the dodo birds. It's gone. It's going to be targeting advertising. And that's what these guys did. They targeted advertising. I'm doing the same thing. I'm targeting my advertising. What I did for my pro shop, same type of thing, I targeted. I had a hard time getting people to buy things from me when they can go on the internet. Does everybody have a pro shop? Or affiliated with a pro shop? It's one of the big complaints. Very difficult. So I essentially put a kiosk in my pro shop so they can go on the internet and order right there. And then I have it set up with a company that can go directly through me. So I'm targeting that sale. Once again, the idea is that instead of trying to shoot out and sell to everybody, I'm targeting a single person, a single idea. So when the people come into the club, now what I'm trying to do is get them to feel very comfortable knowing where they want to go, what they want to do as fast as possible, and finding their background. I call this formatting my buyer. So I know what they're doing, I know what they want. How many of you ever joined a club? There's no one here that's ever joined a club. But think about that for a moment. When you think about the fact that you buy things all the time. The business you're in, you've never experienced the other side of that buying process. And it's a very interesting thing because what would you be looking for when you went into a club? What's the first thing you'd want to have? When you're a tennis player, you go into a club. What are you looking for? Tennis courts? Tennis players? activity, leagues, experiences, right? What you're not looking for is the locker rooms and what they're like, the cafe and what the prices of the foods are there, pool temperature, or whether it's using salination system or chlorine. You don't care about that. You want to know one thing that you care about, finding people to play tennis with. That's the first thing. So that's the first thing we target. We find out who they play with, when they want to play, how they play, the whole bit, and we get them into that area right away. We literally book them for a court, book them for opponents, book them for wherever they want, get them into league play, whatever it is, make it happen. Again, these are called primers, getting people to feel like they're walking into the situation immediately, rather than going through the whole process of selling. Once again, the tennis pros are my best salespeople. They are by far my best salespeople. I do a lot of promotional programs. I've tried everything possible to push memberships, and I do this for other clubs. I have 4 clubs I'm helping right now that are very much struggling, and it's very, very difficult to find ways to reach out. We've done everything from Groupon. Anybody ever use Groupon, by the way? No. A couple pros used Groupon, big discounts, found that everybody took the discounted lessons, then left. And that was it. It didn't help at all. There's Yelp, everybody has Yelp review of stuff of what you do. Again, not real helpful for us. It all came down to that ability to target one thing. I told this story before. When I tried to hit the general public, I had an idea that, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. There's a parade that goes by our club every year, and it goes down to a park. And as it goes by, there's hundreds and hundreds of people watching. I thought what I would do would be to have a float. And my idea was to take tennis balls, and on each tennis ball, I would write, free usage of the club, and then I would have a ball machine on this float, and as we went down on the parade, I would shoot the balls out. Well, there's a lesson learned here. When you get to the senior retirement home, you always want to remember to turn off the ball machine at that point in time. It was kind of weird to see people who are normally so calm and relaxed become so active. And then later on, it goes to a park, and my other idea was, at the park, I came up with this thought that I had a plane that I could rent. You can do these flags that are behind them. They're really cheap. But what I was going to do is have that, and then take these tennis balls and drop them right over that park. There's the lesson too here is that you do have to take into consider drift when you do something of this nature. And as luck would happen, they say lightning doesn't strike twice the same spot. But the balls did drift exactly where that same retirement home was that I nailed. And I had this thought in my mind, if there was ever any war veterans there, they figured they just got bombarded and air attacked at the same time on the same day. But I try everything possible to do something that will be promotional, active, fun type of things to get people to join. But at the very end of the day, it always comes back to people walking in and having that experience. There's a new program that's just come out also. You're going to hear about it. And I bring this up again because of what Paul was talking about. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but it should be within a year where if you want, you can actually narrate the US Open to your students. It'll be part of a system with a phone, basically, and they'll cue in. So you would have all your students say, I'm going to narrate the US Open final. So you just turn off the volume and listen to me. You have all your students lined up, and you can actually narrate out. But what's great, narrate. What's great about this program, I think it's great about it, is that you can expand it to people beyond that, which is another good way of capturing people and bringing them in. It's a wonderful concept, by the way. I brought up a phrase a minute ago about false values. I want to kind of go over what that means, false values, because it's used a lot in sales, and I think it's, in our industry, a little bit different than most. The way false values works is that when someone comes in and they're looking at how things are going to be priced, this is especially true with lessons and what have you, they'll start to compare things back and forth. This costs this much, this costs that. And you have to make sure that what happens is they don't get into a comparison. We call it the bake sale. You don't want to get into a bake sale with everybody else about what your prices are, what you have. So you have to find things that are unique to you, unique what you do. And part of being able to do that and be successful at it is having that ability to see what you do that's different from someone else. and then putting a value on it. So that you have this idea that when someone comes in, I'll give you the example of what they did at this place in Puerto Vallarta. They would say to you, well, how often do you go on a vacation? And you go, oh, twice a year. How long? 2 weeks each time? How much does that cost you? Da, da, da. And then they would say, well, you can see over the next 30 years, you're going to be paying $400,000 for those vacations. For $50,000 and a maintenance fee, you could have this place. So they say, this is a lot cheaper. What you do in tennis is very similar. When I talk to people in tennis, I'll sit there and say, how often do you go to clubs? How often do you pay for this? How often do you take lessons? And I try to get an understanding of what they're currently paying. And then I try to give them an idea of what they could get at our club for that same price. And it really, or a lesser price rather, and it really helps out because if I tell people that the dues is going to be so much, but for instance, I have indoor courts, no indoor court fees. Very unique, very unique. We have challenge courts where people could just come down and play, king of the mountain type of thing. Unlimited amount of tennis. You can play as much tennis as you want. It's a very unique situation because of that environment and what we provide. So I sit there and I tell them, so if you go to this club X and you're paying court time, you're going to do it, paying dues and taking lessons, it's going to cost you over a period of 2 years about $20,000. Here, it's going to cost you about $5,000. Now, the reason I can do that is because I've taken the numbers of their other usage and I've maximized them completely. And I've taken the numbers of my usage and minimized them. That's what false values is about. I kind of got them to go to a point and say, this is a better deal. Am I lying? Am I telling them something wrong? No, not necessarily. But I'm giving them a comparison they probably wouldn't do on their own. Because most people, when they go to compare prices, when you're in problem, so will compare this point price A to point B. So if someone goes to you and says, how much are your tennis lessons? Well, they're $400 for a series of 5. And they go, well, over there, they're $300 at the rec department for a series of 10. They don't say at the rec department that they've got 15 people on the court and you only have 4. That's the type of thing we're talking about when you're looking at false values and understanding. You have to make those comparisons so they make you look favorable. And the way to do that is to know what people want to pay when they walk in the door. And that's a very important part. So when someone comes to you and they're interested in a membership, they're interested in lessons, they're interested in playing events, you need to add up those numbers for them right there on the spot. Say, okay, how much is this going to be worth? How much you're willing to spend, and go from there. And then try to draw that line as fast as possible. You need to be a little ahead of the ball game when you do that, by the way. You can't go in there and do it spontaneously. You have to know your numbers ahead of time. I find that with the tennis pros, if they can get them on the court once, and this is what I tell all the pros, don't worry about selling a group lesson or a membership at all. Get them on the court, get them to fall in love with what they're doing with you. After that, you can basically do anything you want. But if you go out there and say, this is how much it's going to cost for you to be a member here, this is how much it's going to cost for you to take lessons here, they're probably going to balk. They're not going to go with it. But if you say, you have time tomorrow? How about next week get together? Let's get together and find, and you get them on that court one time, after that it moves. And you'll find yourself getting a lot more long-term lessons that way. Okay, marketing. This is something I wanted to get into here. Marketing for yourself and marketing for the club. At the summit, they call it the Summit of Tennis, which was in Palm Springs. That was back, was that February? Anybody get to that meeting, by the way? Yeah, just one part. There was a gentleman from Boston who did some marketing. Who was a marketing expert. And he brought up a subject that I had never heard before, but I was very interested in seeing how it played out. The subject was simple. He said that we have the X, Y, Z generation we're dealing with. The X generations are those people between 20 and 40. What was interesting about that was how few of those people are involved in tennis. And if you follow any of the newest research that TIA did about the USTA programs, you'll know that they said in the 55s and over, the average age was 62. In the 40s and over, the average age was 47. And in the 18s and over, the average age was 46. Essentially telling us we don't even reach the 20 to 40 people at all. But what we don't know as a tennis organization is why. Does anybody have any idea why that group is not into tennis? Anybody? That was my response too. I had no idea. Pardon me?
Money or time?
Money and time, yeah. Tennis has become a sport because of, I talked to a 27-year-old. First of all, could they join a club? No. But then I said, could they get into leagues? Can't, don't have the time. Talked to a 34-year-old, got money done, doing well, leagues, don't have the time. And his comment was, I do not have the time in my life with kids to have someone tell me where, when, or who I'm playing with. Can't happen. Their whole world is based upon spontaneous action. Cell phone, go. So what we've started to do, and it's really working well, is 48 hours, goes back to the app we're using. 48 hours out, we'll go, tomorrow, Ron Bauer is going to visit us for a wine tasting. We'll play tennis from 5 to 7, and we'll have a wine tasting afterwards. We're starting to get those people. If we had organized it way ahead of time and do that, wouldn't work. Fastest growing fitness sport in this country is Zumba, and that's why. Anybody know what Zumba is, right? You know, it's basically music dancing, Latin music dancing, growing leaps and bounds. Once again, because their connections for each other is phenomenal. So they'll sit there and all of a sudden you'll get a notification saying, hey, we're going to be having a big party at Mount Tamarack Club on Friday, this Friday. You know, there'll be some snacks and drinks, there'll be, you know, at the bar, discount or what have you. Big. This is what this generation wants. And we as a tennis organization, as salespeople, do not really provide it very well. It's really being lost, and that doesn't seem to be a lot of work towards gaining it yet. That's the X generation. So if you're going to try to get those people to come across, you're going to have to find things that stay away from long-term commitments, get these people to have more spontaneous fun. The XY, net generation of Y, the 10 to 20s, again from this person's analysis, the big concern about them is that, well, there's two things. One is that they don't think they have to ever work, which is really strange. They're into tennis only because it's something that they do once in a while with friends, or they're totally into tennis and they make competition the #1 priority for them. There is very few recreational people at that age group playing. And again, I ask the question, why? I mean, I find that myself. I don't know about you. I either have really serious teenagers playing tennis, or maybe once in a while they just play recreational. But there's a real gap in there. There's nothing in between for them. What are they looking for? What is someone looking for between the age of 10 and 20 in the tennis world? Now, there got to be members of the club, and usually they're the children of your members. What are they looking for? What are you marketing to these people? Activities. And again, kind of sudden activities. And not intense activities, but basically activities that are complementing already something going on. There's a fella in Santa Cruz, he's a strange cat, Arthur, has come up with an electric tennis ball, lights. So at nighttime you can play. It's really cool. I still have an issue with clashing rackets and stuff though in the middle of it, but I could see where, you know, a club that doesn't have lights for the courts would be a great idea. But the kids tend to love it. They think it's kick. And he's working on the stripe that goes on the net so you can see the height of the net and putting something on the racket so they don't clash. But things like that, they are not keen on competition at all for the majority of them. Then you get the group of them that really are keen on it. So you go one way or the other with these people. But what I found was interesting was I asked him afterwards, I said, why do you think they're not keen on competition? He said, remember what I told you? They don't think they're ever going to have to work. That's a group, I thought that was odd. But then again, I have a couple of kids that were that age and they didn't work, you're right. They're working now, thank goodness. But, so that's part of it we have to understand about them. The Z generation, 10 and under, we have a big growth in that part of our world right now. It's growing leaps and bounds, thankfully. But what was interesting about that group, there was two facts. One fact he said that I thought was it's the first group of people that more commonly than ever before reference their parents in the first name, which I thought was very odd. But they were also the most knowledgeable group of people for that generation ever because of the cell phones. So you basically, you have the father going, Timmy, you know, I want you to think about getting your forehand done. And Timmy goes, well, actually, John, the fact is that the forehand's not, I mean, and they do that, and they can do it really well. So what happens is you have to approach these 10 and under kids completely different. They're highly, we'll say, educated, knowledgeable. Are they smart? We'll go there another day, but the point of the matter is, they have a lot of stuff going on right here. And you've got to know what's going on with these kids. You cannot go out there and say, hey kids, we're going to play. And the 6-year-old goes, yeah, well, what do I get out of that? Well, we're going to play this new game. Well, I know that new game. I saw it. And then they're just way out ahead of you. So everything you have to do, you have to be able to stay a little step up. They're not like it was years and years ago. I found that very interesting in marketing and understanding these age groups. I found it very, very interesting. In fact, the only thing that caught me off guard was the XYZ. I thought to myself, what are they going to call the next group? Because they ran out of the alphabet. So, you know, there's got to be a problem here when they get to this next group. Family activities, marketing with families. When we tried something, and I have to say, I thought it was going to be an absolute failure. Again, we're in Marin County, near Napa. We have tons of vineyards up there. It's a big winery. And I thought, we had family night on Friday nights, and it was dying. There used to be 60, 70 people would come, and we'd show a nice TV or movie on for the little guys, and the parents would go out and play tennis, and then there was another area where the kids who could play a little older would play. And it was going away little by little. And I thought, well, maybe the kids are losing interest in this. You know who's losing interest? It was the parents. I thought, well, legally there's issues with having your kids stay there and the parents go out. We tried that for a while, and there was legal issues out, and the parents leave them there. So I thought, what's going on here? Why are the parents losing interest? Well, what's happening is that they're still having to be parents while they're there. I didn't get that. So what I had to do was essentially separate the groups completely. And I've got a big bouncy and got them out by the pool there, the kids. With the parents, I thought, well, what will work? And I did wine tasting again. So family night, having wine tasting on family night, I thought, that can't work. It worked fantastic. Because it allowed the adults to be adults and the kids to be kids. Now, that sounds really strange because I was calling it family night. So my idea was to put together a night that the family would enjoy. But I was stupid because I thought that meant that they would do things together. That was family, right? It turns out that parents that are 35-ish to 45-ish really don't want to be doing things together anymore. They want to be doing things apart with other adults. But it's nice that the kids are taken care of at the same time. So this was the recipe that worked for me. And I found that I went to several clubs in the area, 2 in Sacramento, 1 down in Santa Cruz, and another one down in Monterey, close to each other. And they had the same issue. And I said the same thing. I said, separate with their activities completely. Let the adults be adults. Let the kids be kids on the same night. And put a river between them. You know, just don't let them mix the whole night. At the end of the night, they get together, and hopefully you monitor the amount of drinking involved with the wine tasting as well, because that would be the only thing that'd be scary. And they've all done very, very well. So my concept of family nights has completely changed. Now, marketing to families. What do you think we found, this is another survey here, was the greatest motivation the parent had for sending their kids to 10 and under tennis? And I know that 10 and under tennis people at UST are not want to really hear this, but this is what we discovered. What was the #1 motivation? #1 thing. Was it to learn tennis? No, it wasn't. What's that? Taking care of them. Just, you know, it's why we have play dates today. It's a whole new world with kids. These 10 and under kids, they have to be kept busy all the time. No idle time, no idle time. Until they get to be the next generation, then they'll have all the idle time they want. And they'll have all the problems too. But the point of the matter is that they want them to keep busy. Because they've got soccer on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they've got swim lessons on Friday, they're going to have tennis on Monday and Wednesday, followed in each case by either a tutor or a piano teacher, or maybe, got to be gymnastics, because all kids take gymnastics, which I still don't get at the age of 5. So some guy can charge you $500, say, he could be an Olympian. No, won't happen. But they go roll around in their bathing suit for about an hour and they go, yeah, give me $500, that was great, and your kid knows how to tumble. So they got this complete schedule for them, and it's amazing that they have this kind of schedule, and it keeps going on all the time, over and over again. So I thought, well, my first thought, the wrong thought. Well, that's not right. We're not babysitters. We're tennis professionals. Professional doesn't babysit. We are professionals who teach tennis. And if they're going to come to this club, they're going to be taught how to play tennis. We're going to be proud of our program, and we're going to walk away with our heads held high, and well, we did, but we didn't make any money. The bottom line is we just didn't get, because most of the kids would come and they just wanted to have fun. They wanted to do, silly little things. Here's what was interesting, and I got this from the gymnastic things. We made, my wife and I made so many friends in gymnastics. And I thought, how did that happen? Common denominator of the kids? No. Common denominator was our butt sitting on these stupid benches watching our kids in bathing suits stumble around. That was the common denominator. So I set up a venue for my 10 and under tennis for the adults to sit and watch. Not just watch, I have a waiter come out and serve them from the bar. And it's tremendously more successful. It wasn't at all what I thought was going to be the marketing approach I would go for. It was, I never saw this coming, but then I should have, because I was one of those people for years at the gymnast place. I'm doing the same thing. If they would have, I guarantee it, well, someone would have had to be a designated driver, but if they would have been serving red wine at that gym thing, I would have been drinking it going, yeah, look at that kid roll, look at him. It would have been great, because it would have been such a comfortable thing to do. We trade turns, she drives one time, I drive the next. But my point is that was something you don't see coming with these new family type stuff, is the parents want to have fun too, in their own way. But it's interesting how they will share this experience about that time of day with their kids. And it's an interesting type of sharing, because it's the observation of watching their kids. And all of a sudden, what happens with these people? They bond. They end up bonding, and now who do you have? You have members. Another survey. Why do people keep their memberships? For their friends. Social. It's not for their tennis as much as we thought. It's not for fitness as much as we'd like to. It's for the friends. Because where else in the world do you find friends? I mean, you can go on the internet, but those friends, we know what they're like. That's not going to hold up for long. But the point of the matter is that where do you find most of your friends? You find them through common interest. Your common interest is often your children or whatever you do. There was a period of time, and I can remember when, you would go out in the evening, go out to a bar, go out to a restaurant maybe, just meet people. There were events you could go to, and you would meet people. In college, you met people. It was easy. But in this day and age, it's very difficult. And that's why there's so much investment in the tech world in these gathering software programs, Squad Up, Meeting, Workplace, and all this. I mean, everybody started to get, because it's hard to get people together. So what's happening is that you at a club can start to do that. You can get people to gather. And I'm always thinking about ways how I can get them to gather more. I have my challenge courts I mentioned. They're sitting right next to an open space. It's probably about half as big as this. And I'm going, what happens is that when you're playing a challenge court, you're playing and then you have to sit off because you lost the set. Or if you win two, you have to come off. And now you have to wait around and you sign up and hopefully half an hour, 15 minutes, maybe an hour, you'll get back on again. But it gets people hanging around, enjoying the place, talking to people. But they want to stay active. So I put in a bocce ball court right next to it. Which everybody goes, oh man, that's going to be so noisy. Who cares the challenge court? It's absolutely phenomenally successful. How many people have bocce court? Have seen anything about bocce? I mean, they're really successful out there. There's a new one they just put in Livermore, which is phenomenal. And by the way, they're not what I thought they were. Ball rolls and knocks them. These things are major size, developed. They cost a lot of money to build if you do them really right. They have music, they have lighting, they have sounds. I mean, it's a phenomenal thing. And the tech world in our part of the country, so into it that they actually pay an average person an average of about $250 a night to play. It is a gigantic industry out there, growing in leaps and bounds. So much so that 3 of the clubs that were in our little group have actually taken out their tennis courts and put in bocce ball. And it's successful. It's successful because it gets people to socialize and interact. So I just added it on. Fortunately, I had the space. And again, I got people adding on another way to market my place and go in there. I did the same with ping pong. I have ping pong tables that I roll into my indoor basketball court. Why? Because there are a number of people that like to sit out there and play ping pong. Not competitive, just enjoy it. Gets them out there and interact with each other. But guess what the #1 sport is from racket sports growing in the country right now?
Across.
Pickleball.
Pickleball. Pickleball. What a name, first of all, pickleball. Any sport that's named after food, this is, for some reason, this doesn't work for me. But pickleball is growing in leaps and bounds. Why? Yeah, it's simple. It's simple. Doesn't take up much space. So one of the facilities I had in Sacramento, they had 12 courts, of which half of them are always dead. I took the 2 back courts and made essentially, I believe it's almost 6 or 8 of them in those 2 courts. And now the older guys are out there playing pickleball, which is amazing. And so that space got used. But guess what? The older guys who are playing pickleball, now they have a little tournament thing at night they do, and then they like to have a barbecue afterwards. You see, it's the whole thing again. We are in a little bit of a war in this world. I guess that's maybe a little strong. We're in a war. We're in a battle right now with the fact that there's certain organizations that are really honing in on more competitive play. And we need to go back and find more recreational and social activities to market, because that's going to be the future. I strongly believe that. I think people will burn out of competition after a while, or just get bored with it, or just, like I said, not have the time for it, because it's one of the things that kills a lot of sports is when there's only competition after a while, because at a certain point in time, we all know you can only do so much. So now you're playing against the same people, the same thing. And oh, by the way, yeah, you win the districts and then the sectionals and you go to the nationals, and then wow, you get a magnet on your refrigerator. So after a while, they go, well, this is not such a big deal. So where's the sustaining part? The sustaining part of all this stuff that we can market is the social end of tennis, the social end of our clubs. And that's what I'm trying to get pros to push back into. I don't think it would be harmful for all the pros to start to think about on a weekly basis what sort of social programs they could do at their club that would make this club better. And I go back to where I started with this, because I'm almost done here. That if you went to a club and you said, you know what, I'm going to run 2 or 3 social events every week that's going to enhance the sales of the pro shop, going to enhance the activities of the cafe and restaurant, I will tell you that that will get the ears of those people instantly. Instantly. Because they know what we've been talking about. They know it's going to create the revenue, it's going to create membership retention, and it's going to create that social atmosphere that gets more people to come all the time. Because now I got someone coming into the club, I see this guy walking in, he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting back into tennis. I go, oh yeah, as he hobbles in at 62 years of age, I go, yeah, what happened? Oh, I got your hip replaced. Well, you know, we're doing pickleball and bocce ball out there. Really? Boom. As compared to, yeah, we got tennis for you. You know the sport that puts your hip out. We got that for you. But we can do something a little bit more. So, conclusion of this marketing concept is that every pro should start to go back home today. Write down 3 things that you can do for your club that would be a social activity, which, by the way, you can get involved with, you can do, and start that as part of your agenda. Start also contributing to your newsletter. That's a marketing tool you need to have. Start thinking about how you can use whatever technical internet stuff you have to interact with people. You can market yourself a little bit more. But my goal would be that if the USPTA Pro can become not only the top teacher in the area, but also the top go-to person for marketing and sales at that club, your jobs are going to be golden. I can just tell you right now that I have 5 clubs looking for pros, and a pro that had those qualifications would be put right at the top of the list, right off the bat, because I know that they would make that club successful, and I know the owners would say that's what we want. Hence, good luck. Thank you.